Welcome to the revolution in the airwaves. It's The Cure with Scotty and Sully, where we don't just talk about the medical industry, we transform it. This is The Cure with Scotty and Sully, where we don't just cover excellence, we create it.
Hey, welcome to The Cure with Scotty and Sully. We got another great episode. I'm pretty pumped for this one. Scotty, I don't know if I gave you the background of where I met my very handsome guest. Like my children, I spend quite a bit of time on TikTok and Instagram, and, it tends to recommend pretty good sales gurus pop up on my little feed. And this guy who looks like Clark Kent from Gone with the Wind, he pops. Not Clark.
That's not Clark Kent, buddy.
Clark Kent. What is his? What's his name? You know, with Scarlett
Clark Gable.
Clark Gable. He pops up, and you know what? I was so enamored by his beauty that I didn't hear the first set of words that he used, and so I listened to the guy, and he's got this Italian accent. So he reels you into the Italian accent. And then what I loved about it is he teaches really specific tactical words and process to use when picking up the phone. But what's different about this guy is he makes cold calling fun. And, even in the precise selling seminars we spend a lot of time on cold prospecting. What do you do when you walk into a hospital or a doctor's office? A gatekeeper staring you in the eye. What do you say? And most salespeople don't know how to do it. As a result, they avoid prospecting. And when I met Giulio, he and I jumped on a Zoom. We hit it off. In fact, he works with my own outbound sales team. So that tells you when you have a sales training company who's hiring a guy to train your salespeople, that means he's pretty damn special. So let me give the formal intro. Guilio Segantini, he's a philosopher, which we're going to talk about. And he turned into this sales maestro, but again, he injects fun, wisdom into the art of cold calling. He's on a mission to transform sales underdogs into champions with his unconventional, and I promise you they are unconventional strategies with a dash of Italian flair. So a big round of applause for Giulio Segantini.
They're nice.
I love that. I love that. That was a great intro.
Hey, you like that? I don't mean a word of it, by the way. All right, so Giulio, well, Scotty, you were very curious, so I already know, Giulio. You take it away, baby.
Yeah, I got interesting. Sully bringing up the philosophy piece. Giulio, walk me through how you go from a philosophy graduate to a guru of sales techniques and cold calling techniques.
I mean, the story is quite simple, and it's the oldest story in sales, which is like, I was like, what the hell am I going to do in my life? I remember that the one month before graduation, I was in one of the campus toilets, and there was literally someone wrote off the toilet paper, "Get your philosophy degree," and an arrow pointing down. I'm not joking. So I was like, oh Christ. So like and literally I was like, oh, there's all these jobs about recruitment. They sound fun. It looks like it pays a lot of money. I'm going to apply to a bunch of them. And then I've got one job, and then first day of the job is like, oh, by the way, guys, we do like 100 cold calls a day. And I was like, what is a cold call? So that's how I got into the sales world, basically.
That's awesome. I love that story. And Sully, you're right. I love the accent. I need a glass of vino here to have this conversation. It's a little early in the morning, but
not for him. He's 6 hours ahead. He's getting closer to happy hour than we are. But there is a philosophy behind cold calling, right? So it's not just the words that you are using. It's really trying to use the words that are in some way guiding the mind of the person in front of you. Sales, I mean, you need a little philosophy in doing it, right? I mean, so there is parts of you using that.
I would say it's more than the philosophy. What did help is the idea of having the open mind and asking questions, right? Because that's really what sales is about for me, is asking the right questions. I think 70% of what you do on a cold call, apart from the pattern interrupt, is asking the right questions. So I would say there's definitely a philosophy to that, but then the deep root is the psychology. So how can you make the more statistically psychological option in a cold call to get the best outcome? That's the philosophy you should have behind it.
There you go.
When you talk about cold calling in our space, or the folks that listen to this podcast, and what Sully and I used to do, since COVID, it's crazy how busy people in physician offices are. Doctors are seeing way more patients, have less time with them, on and on and on. What are, some techniques or some ideas you have that could tailor a cold call around, making sure you value that person's time, but you kind of get to where you're trying to get to with them?
The first thing that I recommend to anyone that's working in a very crowded space is you got to think about what is the competition doing, and then you got to go in a different direction, right? Just to give you a stupid example, I embodied this with the yellow outfit. Who the hell gets on a call with like yellow sunglasses, yellow top? But you'll never forget seeing me. It's impossible, right? And it's the same logic on a cold call. I remember I had a webinar recently, and we asked someone on stage, and he was like, okay, what's your intro? And he's like, oh, no, we specialize in this. We're good because of that. And I was like, okay, what's your competitor going to say? Probably the exact same thing. Right. Okay. So that's the first thing for me is like in that 10, 15 seconds, even if you're walking into the office, I would start with something like, if I told you I'm here to see the doctor for an appointment that is not asked for, you're probably going to hate me right away, right? And just crack a smile, make them, and then the gatekeeper, the reception is going to be like, oh, God, yeah. And, but you take that problem out right away of their mind. So it's just standing out, and there's so many ways you can do this. But first of all, you want to be unforgettable. And that's the first piece of advice that I would give.
How long have you been DJing?
DJing. This is part of it. Like when Brian was saying, like on my first TikTok video, I have a ridiculous outfit. I have a Star Wars t-shirt and a white headset. And since then, it's become like that, just standing out. Like, so the white headset has now become part of the brand.
I love it.
See that, and you know it.
Oh, it's true. Which, hey, do you see any similarity?
Yeah, Dr. Ben.
Look at him.
I love that.
He makes appearance in almost every episode.
There's every episode. We got to bring him up.
I got to find mine. Mine's in my desk somewhere, so I can pull it out.
I love that. I love that.
Have you told him that story?
Which one?
About Dr. Ben?
No, tell him.
So the guy that he just showed there, he created a character, and you got to remember, this is healthcare. So most sales calls are pretty serious. They're not funny, but you can make them funny. And Tony, who we affectionately call T, created this character. They sold sigmortoscopes for getting your 50-year-old exam at the old proctologist. So Tony created this character called Dr. Ben Dover. And then he had all kinds of different.
Okay. All right.
Look at me,
And
Tony.
then he had all kinds of different family members. His wife was Eileen Over.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
my God.
Yeah. His cousin Neil over. He had all of them.
Yeah. His adopted Asian son named Hung Over.
Hung over.
Look, there's something you guys mentioned that I got to pick on right away, which is you said, like in the healthcare, it's typically very serious people, right? So why did you think this works so well?
Because they're serious people and they want to have fun. They want to have some fun at work.
That's right.
Absolutely. I'm coming from pharmaceutical recruitment, right? We would go to the meetings like the suit and tie and everything. But the moment you crack the first joke and it lands, because sometimes it's not going to land.
Yeah.
That's when you're already different from anyone else. So I think that's even more important if they're so used to being serious. I can imagine a doctor, they're stressed, they're overworked, they're used to the same pitch, talking about how their product is different from the 1,000 others they've seen. And so if they're going to buy from the human, they're not going to buy for the product unless you're selling, Viagra in the first week of it coming out. And then, everyone wants it and you just know they're taking.
Right.
Yeah, it's funny, when I got out of school and first started on the lot, I was scared to death. I was just so afraid of rejection. And I think that has a lot to do. Same with cold calling. I mean, you got to have a mindset. What do you coach on mindset around, when you're cold calling? I feel like you got to go in knowing, hey, you're going to get some no's. But, if you don't put a line in the water, it's like my mom. My mom was one of the best salespeople I ever met. And her line was always no until you ask. And so talk a little bit mindset around cold calling.
Well, look, it's kind of interesting that you mentioned this, right? Because mindset is kind of an overused word, right? No one knows what it means. You talk about like mindset here, mindset that. But generally, what you're referring to is that how do you get over that fear of rejection? How do you get to the point that you pick up the phone, right? Without having so much attachment to the outcome. And I think some people, perhaps like your mother, are just born without that glandular shame, and they just don't care. It doesn't matter.
She just expects yes, no matter what she's asking.
She just, but it's great, like some people are like that, but that's probably 5% of the world.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? And let's be honest, if you're hiring salespeople or you're a salesperson yourself, you're not like that. You need to train it in yourself. And there's a comparison I make often, which is actually going to be really relevant. So in order to become a doctor, how many years do you have to study in the US? It's like 2 degrees plus then you got the, how do you call it when you go to
residency?
The
then you've got residency where you're making no money. I just met a kid last week and he's just like, I'm making no money. I'm working 15-hour days. He's dying on the job.
Exactly. So in order to become a doctor, right, you need to work probably 15 years. You need to slave away, right? And then you have the average salesperson that sees, I can make 200, 300K, blah, blah, blah. But then they're not willing to put in the consistent work. Do you know how many hours the doctor read thousands of books, literally over and over until he memorized them? So I would say that the first thing to think about is like, you're a professional and this is your job. So the way I go about it is you block your calendar and you then stick to it slowly but steadily. So the way I learned is like the day one of my recruitment job, we were given a list and we made 150 calls, right? But no outcome. We just need to talk to people, audit them about things. And then we slowly built our resistance. And I think the biggest problem salespeople have is that they'll do like one day of cold calling. Then for 3 days, they're like, I've got 2 meetings. I've got to prepare for this meeting. They're going to research who was the great aunt of the doctor before the meeting, because that's going to come in handy, right? And then they don't prospect for 3 days. And then by the time they've had the 2 meetings, they were so attached to the fact the meetings need to go well that they're probably going to, let's be honest, not do very well. And then they're going to prospect again, and then they're back at it. Instead, if you prospect every day, you get to the point that I was telling Ryan earlier, like, I get on a call, I'm dressed like this. If they don't like it, I can book another meeting. I don't, and that's the logic, like the abundancy. So I think it's really about consistently having the procedure that gets the meeting. And then it doesn't matter how good it's going, you don't stop it.
Yeah.
And that's how you get the machine going. That would be you apply to fitness, you apply to any profession, but just in sales, you're like, I've done a tough job for 2 days. I can take a 2-week break. No, it just doesn't work like that.
Yeah. We spent a lot of time on this show talking about, probably the past 3 shows talking about the importance of standing out and having fun. Right? I mean, the topic always comes up, Scotty. That's why Tony always pops up. But it's really hard to teach, Giulio. It's amazing. I have a whole section in my seminar, and in my book, I call it being stupid. I said, you've got to be stupid. And why do I call it stupid? Mm-hmm. It's because the average or below average salespeople who have no creativity call your ideas stupid. Like, it's stupid to be wearing a yellow outfit. You can't get away with that. What a stupid idea. So I say, you want to be called stupid. And it's amazing how I'll talk about this section, and then I'll say, raise your hand if you've done something creative, something stupid to either get into a cold building. I know you have, or get in with a cold prospect, or doing something stupid and creative to thank a customer for their business. And you'd be amazed. There might be an audience of 100 and there may be 2 people raise their hand. And I'll run down that aisle with that microphone and I'll say, tell me. And sometimes the ideas are pretty fun and creative, but most often they're okay. They're nothing great. And I'll say, grab your pen and paper. I want you to come up with something right now. And I got to tell you, about 75% of the audience hates this section of my seminar. They really don't
uncomfortable.
like it. They hate it.
Yeah.
I mean, and I see it in their eyes and I say, I know what you're feeling right now, right? Your body right now is saying, that's not me. I have to be true to myself. What he's asking me to be is something I am not. I tend not to be a funny guy. And well, it's boring. And if I thought boring worked to sell a lot of stuff, I'd say keep being boring. It just doesn't work, but it's hard to sell.
Look, it's interesting what you're mentioning, because I don't even think it's necessarily about being funny. It's every salesperson will have their way. So, for example, are you a really flat guy, right? Are you just who you are? If you pretend to be me, it's probably going to come across pretty weird, right? But you could be like, look, I'll be honest. Typically, people might try to make you laugh. I'm not a funny guy. I'll get right to business. Is that fair? And that will still work because there's not something else will say. So it's really more about, I think the big problem is that we see all these sales gurus and we think we need to be like them, when really you want to take what they do that you like and you want to make it yours. And then you develop, Brian, you develop precise selling because you wanted something that will work, that you feel comfortable with, that other people will like and feel comfortable with. But if you're not comfortable with that, you're not going to buy it anyway. Right? So it's got to be finding your own way. And again, treating it like a job. Stop thinking like, it's making me uncomfortable. Well, so does mining. Do you want to try mining for a week? See what you prefer. How creative you get after a week in a mine.
So does being a pit boss in a casino, which is what you look like this morning.
I love it.
Change 100.
I'll be like, hey, table 18, that guy's
Take a break.
Go break it. Go break his legs, Tony.
Changing 1,000.
All right. Hey, so Giulio, let's talk about a real call. Okay. So let's say I'm a medical salesperson. And I know a lot of what you do is teach inside sales teams, but the process is exactly the same. All right. The wording you use, the tone of voice, it's all the same. So let's assume I'm somebody and I walk into a doctor's office and I do what you tell me to do. I bring a little light. I'm smiling. I'm really hard to be a jerk to. I ask for help, which I know you're a big fan of. You do such a good job. The guy says, or the lady says, yeah, come on back. I think the doctor's here. And then the doctor's staring you in the eye, has no clue who you are. Give the folks some tips about what they either need to say or think of or create in that prospect that will buy them more time to deliver eventual questions and a pitch.
Well, look, the first thing you want is make the prospect feel okay, right? So if the prospect is there, if the doctor is there, it's like, who the hell is this guy? Oh, it's another salesperson, right? So the first thing I would do here is what we call my previous mentor is called the ledge. So something that will help you to do the rest, which would be, look, I appreciate you get loads of things. I'm going to deliver my pitch. I'll take 1 minute, 45 seconds. If by the end of it, you think I'm boring, you think it's not relevant, you think it sounds like everyone else, I'll walk out. You'll never see my face again. Is that fair? Right? Again, what you're doing is you're taking all of these thoughts, you're taking them out, you're putting them on the plate, and you're making them feel okay. Instead of walking in, it's like, hey, I'm a representative for buyer. We got this and this list of products. You're sweating. They're uncomfortable. So you take it away. You define the time. And then at that point, some will say, you know what? I don't like your face. Go away. They were always going to do that. But the ones that say, yes, you know, you have 1 minute or their undivided attention. And that's what you want. Okay. So that would be my first thing. So, and it could be something like this. Look, I appreciate, probably you didn't appreciate me lying past the gatekeeper or me cracking a joke at the gatekeeper to let me through. Or I'm going to buy Shelly some donuts after this. Whatever it is that you want to do in order to get the time. It's like, I'll take 1 minute of your time. I'll give you the short pitch. Appreciate you're a busy man. You got people to take care of. If by the end of it, you're not happy, we'll leave it there. Is that fair? That's it. Right. And that will buy you the time. And it's something that you don't have to adapt. So you can always have the exact same for each doctor, which means that after the first 20, it's perfect. It's rolling off your tongue.
I love the idea of setting the time. I think it takes them from kind of this position to, all right, I'll let this joker give me his pitch. Why not at the end? And that's where, to your earlier point, you got to practice. You got to be doing it on a regular basis. So when you get that 1 minute,
absolutely,
you're ready to go. It's interesting today in today's world, especially with what I do in the media business. Technology and social media is, in the forefront of minds. And, so many times you see reps try to close business via an email versus a conversation. Can you talk a little bit about integrating cold calling into this environment?
Can you give me a bit more like?
Yeah. Like, how do you use it as more of a tool to help you cold call? Does that make sense?
The social media, you mean?
Yeah. Kind of technology, social media. How do you use it as a tool? I mean, everybody's doing it. I tried to fight it for years because I'm like, no, I want you to have a face-to-face or a phone call with the person, talk to them, not try to do it. But I mean, it's just where things are moving. And as young folks are coming out of school and going in, they are used to communicating this way. So how do you use it as
Of course. Well, it's interesting that you mentioned this because you have the world divided in places, right? Like I personally, I'm not a fan of the old school cold call trainers that are like, the phone will never die. It's all about you need a physical handset, that's too much technology. That's wrong. Like if you don't adapt, you get left behind. So there's got to be a blend. So the funny thing that you mentioned this is, for example, I cold call every day, but I also have a bunch of people interact with my LinkedIn content. And the ones they visit my profile, they're the first one I call. They comment on one of my posts, I'm gonna call them. I had a video about one of my openers, which is like, do you want to throw your phone out the window or let me have 30 seconds? And someone tagged their team, an SDR manager. So I literally called him, gave him the opener. The guy starts laughing. He's like, is that Giulio? I was like, yes, it is. And at that point, of course you got him. So I think one of the ways is to warm up your leads. So if you have I don't know, in the medical space, what would be probably the best way to think about this could be maybe you're sending a lot of emails, you see them open, and then you see the email open, and then you might follow up with a call and be like, look, this is Brian Sullivan from Precise. I guess my name doesn't ring a bell at all. Right, because they're probably seeing the email, and that's your pattern interrupt. You start the conversation that way. So I think the multi-channel is the real future, where you're using as many touch points to build that familiarity to the point that people know. They don't know who you are, but they kind of know who you are, and that's better than just plain cold calling. So that would does that answer the question?
No, totally. It's exactly what we try to talk to companies about with an omni-channel marketing approach. People are like, well, I don't want to do print ads. Yeah, but print ads are what help your rep walk in and people know, oh, I know the company.
Yeah.
And it's like the billboard that you pass on the way to work every day.
Yeah.
You're not going to click the billboard. You can't count clicks, but how much of an impression is that? I guarantee it's impressed in your mind of that organization. Same thing for companies with distribution reps who are calling our manufacturer reps who are trying to get distribution reps to let them work with them. It's like, I may not know them, but I know Welch Allen, or I know Midmark, or I know Abbott to be able to get that thing going. And then from there, it's also like what Sully and I are doing right here, podcasts, put out, your own posts on LinkedIn and, social media and drive that. So yeah, I think it's what you're saying is exactly. It's when we started at Sempermed, it was a startup company. We were selling latex gloves. So not fancy. And the name of the company was Satari at the time. We changed it to Sempermed. And there were 30 other glove lines on the market. We had to figure out a way to get in the door to have somebody talk about something they don't want to talk about because Every time you switch it out, it's a personal product. It doesn't fit the same, this and this and this. We did it with, my son was 4 at the time, and we blew a glove up on his head with air and did our ad was Sempermed gloves. We make them strong. How you use them is up to you. And we just started pumping that into the space. And, 6 months in, they're like, wait, you're the glove company with the kid with the glove on his head, right? Boom. I've got my in.
Although he's in protective custody now.
Yes. Yeah, he's bouncing around a rubber room. But
social care came knocking legs. Like, why are you doing this?
He's actually in the film business now.
Scotty, I want to bring something up there, and as it relates to your magazine, because this is a good point too. Is a lot of manufacturer reps don't understand how important it is for them to regularly time block to call on their distribution reps.
100%.
One of the values of advertising in your magazine is if a distribution rep has read and seen the articles and they see that Welch Allen or see that Sempermed ad, when that manufacturer rep of that company calls, they're going to be a little more apt to listen to them. So you manufacturers out there listening, understand that you can't just do it one way. There is value in, as you say, in a very corporate way. Omni-channel marketing. Whoa, whoa. Very fancy.
I tell you who's great at it is Joe Rich at Gojo. We write content for them around infection control in the magazine. Joel takes the PDF of it, sends it to all of his guys, and is like, hey, I want you sending this PDF out to all your distribution reps because they can use it with their end users as well. But it's just a way of getting that message across that's coming from the publication versus just from Gojo saying how great we are. So you're dead right. You got to take it the next step further. You can't just place the ad and hope that you get the sale.
So a lot of salespeople ask me, so how do I craft an email? Right. And of course, my lesson to them is you got to be able to read it in under 25 seconds. But also, it's very similar. Correct me if I'm wrong or you have a different opinion on this, that the wording is very similar to what you would say on the phone. Am I right with that? Or might you change it a bit?
I would say with the email, you actually have a slight advantage in the sense that you can put other things there. So, for example, I wouldn't start with social proof on a call because it's too early. On a cold call, I wouldn't start with like, hey, we work with blah, 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 because you're just bombarding them. You might do that on an email. But what I think is the most crucial part is that you've got to be using exactly the same language that the physicians would be using among themselves or that the reps would be using among themselves. So to give an example, like I call mainly CEOs of mid-sized companies that are struggling with cold calling. And the terms I use when I give my pitch is like, I fix 2 problems. And the first one is that your salespeople are turning into keyboard warriors and they hide behind emails and LinkedIn instead of making cold calls like this one. And that term is like, that's what they say to each other. It's like why the hell everybody thinks there are keyboard warriors these days? So let's say you're selling, I'm gonna try and make an example for the medical industry. But let's say that they are having a particular piece of medical equipment that is causing injuries in over 1% of the time, right? And that might mean some lawsuits, right? So the problem that might be facing, like you might be having problem with lawsuits because your injury rate is over 1%. And that's what they're going to be discussing with each other. And that's the language that you want to use in an email and in the call, because it's a language that immediately screams, this person knows my world. And if you can have that, there's a very good chance that you're going to get a conversation started.
Hey, how much personalization needs to be done before the call? So do you go into LinkedIn and then learning some things that you can reference early on in that call?
I mean, look, I'm a bit of a different breed in this sense in that I work hard on crafting a good list, but I don't do any personalization. So my logic is once I have a list of, let's say, 200-300 prospects that are, let's say right now, for example, I'm targeting a lot of mid-sized B2B companies that have at least 5 salespeople. They will tend to face some problems. So my logic is to try and approach them with a problem statement rather than a benefit statement. And then some people that, well, I have that problem. Then they're more likely to buy. And then if they have the problem, there's a good chance I can get a meeting set up because they will want to fix it. And too many salespeople are focused on benefits, right? Yeah. What you're getting out of this. The problem with that is that problems is the main reason people change. This is scientifically proven. You change something typically because you have a problem. Unless you fix all your problems and then you're just working to get better, which is what, like 1% of the population? Everyone has got problems. Like a CEO is constantly firefighting. That's typically what they do, right? That they've got the biggest three problems they got to fix. So I think if you can find the problems of your prospects, then the chance of meeting and deals increasingly go high. And then you need to figure out what is it that it's on their mind, and how do I replicate that in my pitch?
That's good. Now here's what here we are. I want you to give me your pitch. Scotty, you're going to play the role of customer here, okay? You're VP of sales of a large medical company. Giulio, actually a midsize. So Giulio, would he be a COO, CEO? Who are you calling on?
If it's depends on how big the sales team is. So if the team is got like 5 to 10 people, then I call the CEO. If it's over 10 people, I'll call the VP of sales or the CRO.
Okay. All right. So Scotty, let's assume Giulio, I'm a gatekeeper. You got past me and you got Scotty randomly on the phone. Let me hear your pitch.
Okay. So I got to go through you first, Brian.
Okay. Yeah. Go through me first. Hello.
Hi. I was wondering if you could help me. I'm looking for Scott Adams.
And what's this in regards to?
Well, I typically get invited in to fix problems around the cold calling area. So specifically issues with prospecting. And as far as I understand, Scott is the right person to talk to. Is that right?
He's our VP of sales. He's probably the one you could talk to. Let me see if he's in.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's in. Let me punch you through. Boop.
Thank you very much.
Hey, hello. How you doing?
Hi, Scott. Look, we don't know each other. So this is technically a cold call. Not sure if that makes you want to throw your phone out the window, or let me explain why it could be relevant to you. It's entirely your choice.
No, happy to talk to you. I obviously have issues with my sales team on cold calls. We all do.
Well, look, I'm sad to hear that, but let's see if I can help. If you don't think it's relevant by the end of the pitch, you won't hear my weird accent again. Is that fair?
It's fair. Where are you from? Germany?
Germany. Oh my God. I just had to double my prices after that, you know. But look, Scott, typically when I talk to all the VP of sales, they have a good team in place with decent performance, but they see two trends that concern them. The first one is that the sales team have become keyboard warriors. So they much rather send 1,000 emails or hide on LinkedIn rather than make one single cold call, especially when it comes to younger generations.
Yeah, we see it every day.
You see, don't wait for the second problem. You might even like that even more. Basically, the second one might be that they are making the calls, they are picking up the phone, but when they do talk to potential prospects, they come across a bit awkward and they don't really deal with objections. And that's just leaving money on the table for the competition. But look, perhaps, Scott, I just catching a bad day. These are not really problems and I'm just barking up the wrong phone.
No, both of those are issues for us. Definitely the sending emails. And so if you have a plan that can help them get on the phone and get more prospects to conversions, I'd love to hear it.
All right, stop. Perfect, right? So if you broke that down, it's exactly as you described, right? So you asked for help with the gatekeeper. You finally got back, and you had this attitude of slight indifference is what we call it, right? I'm committed to helping you. I'm not attached to any outcome, which you brought up earlier on in this podcast, and I love it. And I think something I want everyone listening today is whether you're a sales leader and you have a sales team or you are a salesperson listening, notice how he nails down two problems, just think of two big problems. And then the other thing you did is you put them into very plain spoken words. Right? It wasn't, we work with hospital systems who are struggling within or with the, they're trying to improve their efficiencies, or they're, where they sound like a corporate brochure, right? It cannot sound corporate-y. It's got to sound like a regular dude. And you said, hey, and they come across as kind of awkward. I love the term keyboard warrior. Those are real words, right? It's a human talking to you. It's not a script. So take those away. Those are going to make your cold calls better.
Absolutely.
You're a master.
Master Jedi.
I'm a student. That's where the headset come from, right? Is the Jedi look. One thing I would like to add, Brian, from what you mentioned is this is coming from a script now. I think scripts have got a bad rap. I hate that. I hate that salespeople are like, I don't want to use a script. I was like, what do you mean? Again, do you think the doctor is there? I was like, well, I don't want to use the procedure that someone invented before me. I'm going to come, Mom. Shut up. No, you're not. You're going to do exactly as the book says. And once you do it 10,000 times, then maybe you can come up with your own. But until then, you want the script. Yeah. And then look, it never sounds exactly the same. So one time I'll say keyboard warriors. Another time I'll say, like they're hiding behind emails and LinkedIn. Another time I won't say they come across awkward. I'll just say when they pick up the phone, they sound like children. It'll depend. But you're just getting a bit of the flavor. And I said it so many times now that I could just get away with being a bit more casual.
Amen. Yeah. Yeah. Amen to that.
I think the biggest thing take away from there is, and I talk about it all the time, is sell the problem you solve, not your product.
Yeah. But it's on your wall. Back at the office. Are you at the office?
Yeah, I got a different one up today.
Oh, you switch them every day?
Yeah. Always be
nice
today.
Nice.
Well, I didn't know you had a revolving.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes I have Don Draper up there. Just depends on the day.
Oh, that's nice. I got to get you a new one.
It is. I like it.
I know it.
There's one. So there was one thing that I think is very important for the reps, because what happens, and I've seen this especially in US a bit more, is that what happens is that once there's a problem, the rep goes into meeting mode. They said they got a problem and they try to close immediately, right? It's pretty much like a lady saying they're single, and you immediately be like, well, okay, do you want to date me? It's like, whoa. Like those two things don't collide. Instead, the one thing that I would recommend everyone to do is that you got a problem, you want an example of that problem. And that would be something like, okay, Scott, you were mentioning earlier that this happens all the time. Can you give me a bit of an example of what that looks like day to day? And the reason behind this is that because this triggers the availability bias. If they can come up with an example quickly, then it's at top of their mind. And they'll be like, okay, this is a real issue. And so that's the part. So once you have the example, the problem is real. Because sometimes they'll just turn as like, well, I can't think of one. That person is never going to sit a meeting. Because by the time they realize they accepted to fix a problem they can't think an example of, they're gone. So important, like problem example is the minimum level for me to even consider having a meeting. So,
that's awesome. I love that. That's great.
Would you ask any deeper questions at that point? When do you know when to close for the meeting?
Well, look, as you probably know, I've got a quite detailed structure. So I don't tend to close fast because for me, the logic is the meeting is a pre-discovery call. So I much rather have, and everyone should, I think, have fewer meetings with high close rate than loads of meetings that get everyone's hopes up. They screw with the pipeline prediction, and generally they're just not good for business, right? Few targeted meetings. So the way I go about it is typically example, then what does that mean? So what does that actually mean for the business? Which is a different way of saying for the impact. Because the moment you say, what's the impact? Immediately alarm bells goes off. That's what every salesperson asks for, is what's the impact of this, right? So once I have the impact, I'll typically challenge that further with like, well, okay, but surely you've done something to fix this before.
So to see like how committed are they to fixing the problem? Because if I have someone that's got the problem, but they don't care about fixing it, which happens a lot more than people think, then again, tire kicker. So once I can get a minimal level of commitment, typically you want to find the root cause. So where does that come from? Because for example, if you're talking to the VP of sales and the problem is, everyone is a keyboard warrior. Well, why? Well, because the founder doesn't believe in cold calling. I don't want to sit that meeting. It's going to be impossible. It's going to be a nightmare. It's just a waste of my time. So and again, the deeper you go, so if you get to the root cause, typically people are going to be far more invested in you as well. And then the final part of this one is one of I've stolen from my mentors, and it's probably the best question that you could ever ask is, do you mind if I ask a hard question? And typically they'll be like, yeah, go on. It's like, have you given up on fixing this? And this is where they get emotional. Like,
wait, say it again.
Have you given up on fixing this?
Yeah.
Have you given? And so at that moment, they show you that they're motivated, and they'll be emotional, and people buy emotionally. There's no way.
No doubt about that. No doubt about that.
Exactly. And so if they're emotional, they remember the meeting, they remember you, and they'll sit that meeting. Because how many meetings don't get sat, Because that's all this focus on, let's try to set the meeting as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Hey, you've done a funny job lately on your TikToks of posting calls that have not gone well, right? Which I love, which I really think separates you from, I would say, even the Scott Adams lookalike Grant Cardone and others, right? I think what's refreshing about you is you're not the guy who's taking pictures in front of the Ferrari and Lamborghini and saying, guys, this is the way you got it. Like, you give very specific things, but you're also not afraid to show your rejections, your failures, and you smile through them. It's really funny to watch these things. Give the audience an example of a really funny cold call and what went down.
All right, so I've had actually posted yesterday on LinkedIn and TikTok. So I recently, one of the final, this is another tip for salespeople. Sometimes you get the stonewall. No, I'm not interested, or we're good, we're fine, whatever. Most people, if you're like, okay, no problem. Do you mind if I ask one last question before I go? Most people will let you do that, 90%. And one of the questions is like, what would have to change for you to consider this? And I asked it to a prospect, I think it was on Friday, and the guy's like, I would have to drop dead. Just point blank told me, like, I would have to drop that. Fair enough. I also had like plenty of people when I said, do you want to throw the phone out the window? Be like, yeah, I'm going to throw the phone out the window. Like that happens like at least three times a week, I would say. I've had one recently that I don't know. Oh yeah, it was like, oh no, look, if I need something, I just called him. I was like, look, it's a cold call. Do you want to throw the phone? I was like, no, thank you. Like, if I need something, I'll call you. It's like, how would you call me if you don't know what I do? and it was like, well, the fact that we don't know each other probably tells you that this is not relevant. And I was like, so your team doesn't do cold calling? And the guy at that point was like, go on, be mad. I was like, you know what? Just don't bother someone else. You'll find them on the yellow pages. And I was like, yellow pages? I was like, am I calling someone from the like 70s or something? But yeah. And anyway, so sometimes I get some funny ones on the phone.
I think it's real important to laugh at yourself, not take yourself serious. Take your business serious, but not yourself. It helps you get through the day a lot.
But
yeah.
Okay, this is Michael Jordan, right? Like when he talks about missing the shots.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, this idea that, like, I calculated that roughly, like, if my list is not well polished, I'll probably have around a 5% conversion rate, right? So like I get 5% meeting rate, right? And so I know that because, like, I don't care too much about doing a perfect list, etc. I need to get 90 rejections to get a meeting, right? It's just roughly the numbers that I calculated in the UK. So at this point, I don't need to go crazy. I know that I'll get the one that's not in the buying window. I'll get the one that doesn't call because I haven't done amazing research. I get the one that's doesn't even have a big sales team, etc. And that's fine. And because I know I need to go through those numbers, it's okay. And that's the part that most salespeople get wrong is like, oh, I've been rejected 3 times today. Well, how many times do you need to get rejected in order to get a yes? Once you know that, rejections stop to matter and start counting them. This is what this is. Like I'm on a challenge to do 3,000 cold call rejections in I started September last year. I'm up, I'm missing 1,687. But that's the goal I'm working towards. I'm not working towards amount of meetings or revenue. How many rejections can I get? Because I know the rest will come anyway as I move along.
Yeah. Hey, what coaching would you give a salesperson? And this happened to me recently, one of my own salespeople who you've met with. And he texted me late Friday and he said, I had a really rough week, and I'm a little down. Do you have any tips or advice for me? And of course, I gave him my tips and advice. What advice would you have given?
I probably would have asked him instead of well, what do you think? I think that's probably the best sales management question ever is what do you think? Yeah. And he probably would have gone well, maybe I just need to chill this week and not drink. Maybe on Sunday I listen to some of my calls to figure out how I feel about it. But it's got to be their answer, right? Again, you want to ask the right question and then figure out what is it that they got to do to do better. I think rejection is hard to deal with. It's just the way your brain is wired. It's made that way because 10,000 years ago, when our brains were formed, they haven't changed. If you were socially rejected, you were dead because you would be left out in the cold. While if you were punched in the face, it wasn't permanent. So we tend to resent social rejection way more than physical pain. And so that's the reason why we shy away from it. And you got to find a way around it to motivate yourself.
Yeah, love it. All right. Hey, Scotty, do you happen to have the rapid fire list in front of you? It's that time. It's that special time, Giulio. It's sort of a newer segment on the Cure with Scotty and Sully. This is where we get you to expose things that maybe you otherwise wouldn't want to tell people. Although something tells me you just don't give a shit what comes out of your mouth.
I mean, look, it depends, but I won't be giving any critical numbers.
All right. Question number 1.
If cold calling was a pasta dish.
You got this one, Scotty?
And why?
Yeah.
If cold calling was a pasta dish, what would be a why? It's going to be gluten-free pasta because it's good for you, but no one fucking wants to do it.
All right. Question number 2. You call someone in London. Have you ever tried one of those Englishmen, convincing them in Italian? Maybe they've been dissing you. They're not that interested. And you just go into straight Italian during a cold call just for fun?
No, but that does sound like a good idea. Maybe you know what I'll do next? What I'll do next is someone is going to be like, I'm not interested. Well, what if I put an Italian accent on?
Yeah.
I'm going to try that.
You got to try that. You got it.
I'm going to try that next time.
You didn't think you learned something on this program today, too, Julie?
Hey, I want you to answer the next question with that accent. If you could call on any historical Italian figure, who would it be?
I would be calling Dante and telling, man, why the hell don't you mind your business? Because I have to study this shit now. That would be that. Probably. I did not like studying Dante in high school, so that's the first thing that came to my mind.
All right, next one. What's more challenging, convincing an Italian grandmother or a nana to change her spaghetti recipe, sauce recipe, or getting a positive response on cold call? What's more difficult?
That's not even a question. with the cold caller, you got a certain success percentage chance. With the grandmother, she's just gonna be like, "Shut up! You don't know what you're talking about. You eat it like this. Come on, you're skinny. Keep going." That's literally what's gonna happen.
Who's gonna win F1 this year?
I don't really like F1, so I wouldn't even know who's playing.
I'm guessing not Schumacher.
No, not sure. I think unless he's doing it at the nursing home, probably racing wheelchairs.
I think he's even out of the coma. I don't know. So.
The only reason anybody else will win on there is like what happened last week with Verstappen is the engine blew. If not, you might as well just right in all of the first places. He wins every race.
Look at you. You are sophisticated. F1 boy?
I'm very Euro, as you.
Oh, my God. Thus the hairdo. All right, final question. All right, it's 4:30 in the afternoon on a Friday. Every other salesperson has wrapped it up, which means it's probably a good time to make some cold calls. But you have had a rough week. You've had added a lot of rejections to that whiteboard behind you. You decide you're going to make your last half hour of cold calls with a nice wine. What wine pairs best with the sweet taste of a successful cold call?
It's very simple. Vodka.
Was either that or tequila? But I think vodka. It's just that drinking your pure vodka like a Russian and be like, oh, nice.
Then you go into a Russian accent on the cold calls.
Maybe. I don't think these days they would fly very well, to be fair. So
Yeah, probably not.
I don't know.
You will buy it from me or I will kill you.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
Hey, this isn't the rapid fire, but do you think the Italians get a bad rap as being, the tough guys? I mean, is he like the mafiosos? I mean, what do you think? It's a bad rap?
I mean, I think more Italians are really famous for his pizza. Let's be honest. Like, I think some people that watch some mafia movies, but really, it's you Americans that made the Italians bad. Italians in Italy, that's what. We just evade taxes. It's the Americans that made them bad,
It's that little Irish guy in the middle of the screen that did it.
Hey, I am a quarter Italian. So, all right. Well, Giulio, this has been a blast. Thank you so much for joining us. Where can people learn more about what you're doing? I know, you and I have talked about spreading your mission here a little bit more in the U.S. and you and I partnering to help some of my clients. So I think you and I are going to be doing things for a long time together. But right now, where can I'm a struggling sales rep, or I've got a team of inside salespeople. We need help. Where are they going?
Well, I mean, look, I'm not guru. I can help to some things. I just launched my bootcamp for sales reps. So if people are looking to get their cold calling up, I start on next Wednesday for 12 weeks. So I've got a plan, I think it's 12 p.m. EST time. So that would be for the individual reps that really want to get the cold calling up. And otherwise, people can just reach out to me via LinkedIn or book a meeting via my website.
Okay. Say that again. Awesome. What's the thing you're starting next Wednesday?
It's a boot camp. So it's a cold calling boot camp, 12 weeks.
Boot camp. Boot camp.
Yeah, exactly. Boot camp.
Boot camp.
Boot camp.
It goes right with the red sauce.
And so we'll put your website information in the if you're on YouTube down low or LinkedIn up top. Make sure you check out. Can they still go to underdogsales.com?
They can indeed. Oh, one thing I would like to, I think you've seen it. I put together this Wikipedia for cold calling. Because, everyone is doing the bloody course, right? $100 and you be blah, 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 and all this crap. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it for free and undercut everyone that's trying to do it. Again, breaking the pattern. So now if you go on coldcallingwiki.com, you'll find 25 pages for free with videos, scripts, GPTs, infographics, everything you need to cold call properly. So you can start from that.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. All right, Giulio, you're a good man. Scotty, any closing comments for the Italian?
No, man, thank you so much. That was a blast. That's probably the most I've laughed on one of these so far. So that was awesome. I think the audience will get a kick out of it. And awesome. If I can do anything to help you, let me know, man. It was so great to meet you.
Absolutely. Likewise.
All right, check out Giulio Segantini, the fine Italian,
Thanks,
the underdog, as he calls himself, the weirdest salesperson on TikTok, LinkedIn, Snapchat. and a social media near you. Hope you had fun. You've been listening to The Cure with Scotty and Sully.